Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order, Last Days of Europe. Now, in the last video, we started working on a fair bit of stuff, honestly. We're coming along pretty well with the cartels, mainly against Siemens. Kicking a fair bit of ass against Seaman, actually. Trying to think. I think there was one place we could kick out all the slaves. Oh, there. But anyway, we started working on that. We're working right now on our army. We worked a bit on foreign policy, and we'll get working on more later on. Alright, well, in the early 1940s, with our war industry unable to rally enough hands to maintain supply of new goods and equipment, we turned to the one resource we had in quantity that remained unspent: flesh. Millions of prisoners, Untermenschen, POWs, political enemies, occupied the concentration camps, being worked to death or starved to no end beyond extermination. As armaments minister, Albert Speer gave them a different fate entirely: to work day and night and unto death in the German war machine. Rather than breaking rocks and being tortured at the whims of SS guards, they would work the forges and assemble tools of death for the Wehrmacht. It seemed like a good idea at the time. I don't know. Most men of fighting age were enlisted or conscripted to fight the plutocratic democracies of the West or the Bolshevik menace of the East. With women relegated to more appropriate roles, we were in desperate need for hands, any hands in our factories. Without the mass employment of forced labor, we could not have produced the mountain of armaments that allowed us to crush our foes with an ease that no capitalist economy could have matched. Slave-forged tanks, guns, and planes were as essential to our victory as strong German souls. However, slavery has grown completely out of control. No longer constrained by the state, our industrial leaders have developed a monopoly on the use of slavery, locking most of the German populace out of blue-collar jobs. Even agriculture has no room for free workers, as Prussian land magnates rent tens of thousands of slaves on the cheap from corporations like Reich and IG Farben. For this plague on the Reich to end, the power of the megacorporations must be permanently broken and the deprived masses set free, no matter the cost. But we've got our work cut out for us, needless to say. Our Reich stability is quite good. I'm thinking... trying to think. Did they go? They went Zykov. Okay. So it's not as bad as it could be. And, who's... I wish someone would just go ahead and fucking win there. We want West Siberian Republic with, Boris. So that's neat. I swear, I see Boris in almost all my games, it seems. I mean, it's nice to have a consistent face, you know? Might have to play as Sverdlovsk one of these days. To say that the here is in a sorry state would be an understatement, and von Tresckow doesn't like to sugarcoat things. The truth is that what was once the pride of the Reich is now little more than a rotting carcass, bloated by the corrupt mismanagement of the previous high command and filled with unfit recruits who were only too grateful to be able to escape economic depression and finally eat a warm meal every day. This exponential growth, however, overlooked the supply system until it finally broke, and only served to enrich the weapons industry in cahoots with military leadership. With the constant downturn of the German economy, more and more money was diverted towards maintaining this living corpse. The mere thought of cutting military spending was met with subtle threats of civil war, with the results that any kind of research or improvement were halted due to lack of funds. Poorly trained soldiers, outdated panzers, malfunctioning aircraft, and old doctrines were the reason for the collapse of German defenses during the West Russian War. But not even this was enough to let the corrupt high command understand the depth of their mistakes, as the Heer continued its decadence. With the Civil War over, the Heer has been left reeling from its loss, and from the difficulty of serving once more alongside those who mere months ago were manning a machine gun aimed at you. This, however, is a perfect time for reform. Von Tresckow has a clear idea of what he wants the German army to become, and he won't stop until it's become a reality. This, however, might be difficult, as several prominent generals and field marshals, chief among them Ferdinand Schorner, will try to stop him at any cost. But the battle for Germany is not yet over, ladies and gentlemen. I think we might want to work down this a little bit. We might go ahead and get some bone. Before I do that, yeah, there's a large unstated need for economic development and infrastructure within Poland. The erroneous and short-sighted general plan Ost, along with the massive enslavement of the Polish people, has turned Poland into a backwards hellscape. If we are to bring a new era of peace and prosperity into the East, we must first look into improving and developing new infrastructure to further financial growth within the region. Let's help the Poles out. Anyhow, we'll get a bunch of PP hits, but we'll eventually get there. Gotta wait till the Conjure Pact is finished anyway. Let's cleanse with Stain. To resolve the question of slavery, we must first formulate a plan of attack. We can expect heavy resistance from three groups: the industrialists and the mega corporations who employ the bulk of slaves, the militarists who believe slavery is necessary for the military-industrial complex to function, and the Nazi reactionaries who hold slavery to be a core part of a Nazi paradigm. The Gang of Four and the Fear must coordinate closely on this matter. The former will devise a plan, whilst the latter has the unenviable task of selling it to the entire Reich. There will be outrage and pushback at every turn, but for the sake of our future we must push through, cast aside every obstacle, and trample underfoot every corrupt plutocrat and piece of legislation that supports slavery. Yeah, I'm not gonna envy anyone. Yeah, let's abolish slavery right now. It just reminds me of poor Abe. Okay, turn 3. Not too bad. It's what, 1-1? Send over some support equipment for now. I've got some more research we can do. In fact, we got a lot of research that we're behind on. But, you know, we'll worry about that right now. Because I'm fixing it. Infantry anti-air. Stain. Let's get working on acting on our promises. The abolition of slavery was a main promise of which Speer's success was predicated. Far more problematic than any other aspect of the Reich, its very nature offends the German morality and degrades their national character. Its end will be the foremost subject of modern propaganda diplomatic offensives, for it serves as a demonstration of our commitment to reform and becoming a truly modern forward-thinking nation. More importantly, they grow restless, but slaves are acutely aware of Speer's promises and know that freedom awaits them. While at first pursued for collective unrest, each day that passes is as if, without freedom, drawn closer to every day which a slave might decide to seize it for himself. Siemens. I mean, fair enough. Noticing these numbers are kind of going down on their own. Which I remember when I did my test game, that wasn't the case. So I'm kind of happy about that. Acting on our promises. Infiltration specialization. The Führer's involvement in forced labor programs is very readily accessible knowledge for anyone who cares to do some digging. The propagation of such unfortunate facts has already occurred in radical student circles and banned dissident groups. Should they spread further, it would inflict irreparable damage to the Führer's credibility and therefore his authority. Special attention must therefore be given to the rabble-rousers and overambitious reformist bureaucrats. The R&D will conduct a thorough audit of those privy to Nazi records and deal with most problematic individuals appropriately. Additionally, access to classified information pertaining to forced labor in the Konzentrationslager will be further restricted, with the exception of whatever snippets can be used to benefit our cause. Naturally. Of course. I mean, who would have thought, yeah, slavery is a bitch to undo. It really is. Who's messaging me right now, denying any involvement? Austerity is going away. Cut the spending. Oh, look at that deficit. Look at all that money we're making. Oh. Oh, it makes me wet. Let's pay off the debt this time. I think that will be fun. Oh, it's wunderbar. Let's look towards the future a bit. Working on all of this. Our immediate economic woes have been addressed, but now we must turn to planning for the future of our economy. The other great powers continue to enjoy massive economic growth that continually dwarfs our own, year after year. Though more of the population is employed or undertaking education, the megacorporations still hold near absolute control of the job market. The Führer knew this moment was coming. He saw it years ago, dreaded it, did all he could to stave it off, but there's no avoiding it any longer. It's time to call Earhart again. God damn it. Nobody's going to buy this, groaned Speer, placing yet an... Oh god, cheetah. Placing another propaganda folder on the rejected pile. He opened another envelope and produced another thick wad of paper, idly flicking through them with the air of a man knee-deep in despair. Oh, relatable. Kissinger was impassive. Well, my fear, they were designed to your specifications. I'm sure the fine young men in the propaganda ministry are doing their jobs the best they can. I'll ignore that comment, party counselor, Speer muttered as he glanced despairingly at a particularly unconvincing poster. I mean, really, look at this. He stamped one down on his desk and threw the rest from over his shoulder, temper exhausted. It was a photograph showing a smiling, far too well-fed man in the striped pajamas of a concentration camp inmate shaking hands with an equally jubilant and healthy-looking bureaucrat in full party uniform. From masters and slaves to brothers and friends was stenciled on the bottom in bold yellow lettering. It's a bit on the nose, conceded Kissinger, but it's a hard sell, my fear. It is slavery, after all. Speer shook his head. No, Kissinger, I told you. They're not slaves. They're foreign workers or involuntary laborers. We have to make sure our narrative stays consistent. Kissinger sighed. Apologies, my fear, but there's no sense playing with semantics. They are what they are. It's a bitter pill that the entire nation will have to swallow at some point. The Führer looked lost. God only knew his subordinate thought what could be running through the back channels of his conflicted mind. Fine, he said after several seconds' silence. Fine, we'll find another plan of attack then. You're dismissed, party counselor. I have to put in a call to Gellin. Who knew facts could be so inconvenient? Man! Who knew facts would go against your political modus operandi? You could have fooled me. Okay, what do we got? 2 to 4. Let's send over some interceptors. Yeah, 4 or 5 right now. Okay, we got truth serum. Okay, I think we should start working on another one of these missions. A relationship with Japan and its spear, I keep saying spear. Its spear is less than pleasant. Some would even call it hostile, which has made insight into the workings of co-prosperity spear difficult. However, there is a bastion. The Reich has an embassy in Thailand, and Singvunkel will begin mobilizing the R&D's assets to take full advantage of that fact. From there, we can begin probing further into the Japanese world. So for 70 days, we'll get working on that, and then we'll have a decent chance of the mission succeeding. And if that doesn't happen, I'm going to be very sad. No division basic training, that is the plan. In fact, I will get rid of that notification. I'm doing it. Oh no. Nee, Polska. Do an internal investigation. That's going to cost a lot of political power. And then again, I think a lot of these choices at this point are going to cost a lot of PP. Okay, let's start treating some wounds. Never has there been such a heinous act of imperialism as the General Plan Ost. Under this insane scheme devised by Himmler's Circle of Evil, the economy of Eastern Europe was devastated in short order. Heavy industry was appropriated, economic centers raised, the population butchered, and a disastrous policy of regressive agrarianism imposed upon the survivors. Even were the Reich to vanish tomorrow, it could take centuries for the region to return to even pre-war levels of prosperity by itself. It's too late to help the dead, but it's not too late for the living. When Germany's crimes can never be erased, the wounds inflicted can be healed, at least to a degree. It's hard to say whether our resources are best allocated to undo the damage, but I've settled on Warsaw and Kiev. As the foremost hubs of Poland and Ukraine respectively, it just makes sense to focus on rebuilding them first. Germany has plenty of money and equipment to spare, and we'll have a responsibility to help the conquered. Scars will remain, but even they will heal in time. That works with me. We have some pretty sound economics going right now. God damn, I am proud right now to be a German. Because we are just kicking ass. Cheetah's gonna fall. Our best hope for the Divine Mandate, so that they don't have the breakup event. Because that would suck. I need to close that window. It's getting cold over here. Cold enough that I have to start closing the windows at night. What next from here? Okay, the sins of the father, not the sins of his son. Our Führer, Albert Speer, has never done anything wrong. He never involved himself with the ugliest of Hitler which Hitler got himself into. Unlike him, our new Führer desires to make things right. That's what we believe, and that's what the world should too. This is his way, and therefore our way, of settling ourselves apart from the legacy of our fathers. There we go. So we have a bit of an advantage. They're negotiating trade deals. I think we gotta send trainers. We need something decisive. Uh-oh. The smoke that came into his view while staring through his binoculars had confused him for a second before he realized that no, Warsaw wasn't burning, and that was just a cigar in his mouth. Still, he was surprised that Speer rounded up enough political capital to get this many men out and this much equipment. Perhaps it was simply the sheer obliviousness of his arguments? Erhard chuckled softly when he remembered how Speer tried to argue against reinvesting into Warsaw and Kiev. Something vague about the Reich expressing strength by showing the Poles and Ukrainians that the resistance was meaningless, but even then Erhard could have seen that he wasn't really believing the argument himself. No, what was more likely was that Speer was a snake who thought that he could give a minimal damn about making the Reich seem to be more than just the crushing iron grip of Europa that needed to be removed. He was no National Socialist, certainly, but he could see sense to reason. Or perhaps he did, but was too afraid of the clutches of democracy. Erhard found that both funny and frustrating, but before he could continue looking at the construction project, mobilizing men and equipment, he felt a shake on his shoulder. Erhard? The voice said. It took him a moment to process that was actually the project manager. If I may ask, why Warsaw and Kiev? Lowering his binoculars and turning his head, Erhard raised an eyebrow. Besides being potential industrial heartlands? Well, I suppose there's another reason for it. These are some of the most hardest-hit areas of General Plan Ost, and starting here could perhaps harness the goodwill of the non-Germans living in these areas. He could hear the cold gaze of the manager on him, only tamed by the fact that he was much higher up than the man. Well? Erhard stared up again, returning his own glare. Are you staring at me? Zoning out, perhaps? The manager gave no response, seemingly confused and worried by Erhard's words. So, you're not? Out with it, then! Is there something you wish to say? Or do you perhaps have nothing to say to me, then? If not, then go! You have a project to be overseeing, don't you? Oversee it! The manager scrambled away. It took Erhard a solid minute to calm down after he left. What was he even thinking, starting dialogue with a man like that? Perhaps some of the madness can be reversed. So we'll lose some stab and some regime stab. Okay, let's see what happens with the trade deal. If I'm not mistaken, we should be good. Yeah, we'll be good after we send the trainers. I think no matter what at this point. So we got 80-80. Alright, we got more research slots. Doctrines, why not? Concurrent frontal assaults. RIP. Actually, Mikhail's gonna live. He'll just get sent back to Australia. Ooh. An Antifa chapter had recently received a letter with information on it 2 days ago. In a local university, there was going to be a gathering of students to protest against the government. Nothing unusual, except that the letter told them about multiple things, namely how most of the students had Nazi parents, and that some of them were simply fascists themselves, parading around as a way to pass the time mocking actual students who gave a damn about democracy. Ooh. Though there was something strange about the way that they got all the info, and how suddenly it was, as well as how detailed it was. Given the information, however, they had to check it out. And so the Antifa members came down to the streets where the students were marching that day. And while one of them sat, well, one side met the other with warmth, it wasn't initially reciprocated. One of the Antifa members decided to pull out of the group and began shouting, "Klaus Becker!" he shouted, and one of the students raised their hand and moved forward. "We're told your father is a veteran pilot in the Luftwaffe, and that you vote for the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Are both of these things true?" The silence was unpleasant. It was broken, however, when Klaus let out a laugh. Who told you that? My oppa is a retired electrician, and I've never touched a ballot in my life. Goodness! If you don't believe me, I'll be happy to show you my father's certificates. That chipped off some of Antifa's initial wariness, as more students were asked, as more of these nonsensical facts were debunked. By the end of it, both sides joined each other in another new protest, as Anish's initial suspicions about that letter were confirmed. The government won't divide us, not them, not the nor the R&D. Well, shiza. Seems like Antifa aren't idiots, apparently. Again, I'm going to be very careful about any jokes I make about Antifa. But, yeah, we got France in for another round. Not the Sins of a Son, yeah. 8-7, we win. Ooh. The Italians are making a strong bid to win over the French. We cannot be outdone by them. Releasing French slaves that work in the Reich will counter Italian influence and help us repair our relations with France. Let's do it. We're already on an anti-slave bend anyway, so we might as well do it. The Reich is strongly, overwhelmingly reformist. Beautiful. Damn Antifa. Actually, while I'm down with them, it's probably good that there's anti-fascists in Germany. I think we should go down the, this branch a little bit. The redemption of the here begins with its roots. Once long ago, German martial pride was something to be admired. We were the envy of all nations, not for our many victories, but for the ethos that guided us. Discipline, loyalty, honor, dedication, patriotism. These elements combine with that inalienable German spirit to create the greatest European military since the days of Rome and her legions. Under Nazi auspices, however, the Heer was transformed into a brown band, subject to party doctrine and the whims of our late Führer. The Nazification of Heer was not a rise, but a fall. To save Germany, that shame must be undone. We will find the means not in Mein Kampf, but in the legacy of his soldier king and the nation he built. That works for me. Wehrmacht reform is decisive. Seems our efforts to reform the Wehrmacht right now will have mixed results. I mean, what are you gonna do? Curious real quick, what was this, Joe? Wirtschaftswunder, or PP, more recruitable population, a little bit less of stuff on top of it, but are these hiccups or what? I think they're... I don't think these are hiccups. So I hope they're not hiccups. Oh, Bowman Marmon has no slaves, so let's just do that. No cartels. Boom, easy clap. I'm joking, we're just kind of vibing right now. Ooh, their support is waning. Does that mean we can move on them? Yeah, we can move on them soon. So I think we will, real quick. Despite its nature as a cartel, there remains much one can begrudgingly mind about Siemens. innovation in the fields of home electronics, computing machinery are comparable to those of the Americans and Japanese. Only von Siemens' corruption and their reliance on slavery for manufacturing has kept them from being a global leader to outshine the best of Guangdong's corporations. We shall exploit Siemens' more useful tendencies, even as we continue to diminish their power. God willing, we can turn this wretched hive of villainy to something useful that we can be proud of. Only once they've been cut down to a more acceptable size, of course. Well, that's okay with me. He and the 4 others were all that were needed. On a dusty morning, in that sleepy little town, Stefan and his fellow police officers walked into the local campus. The next hour they had spent walking around corner to corner, classroom to classroom, ripping up the occasional poster filled with Bolshevik propaganda about the foolish anti-fascist whatever. Well, that would have been all that day. They were also tipped about something else by an agent from the R&D, no less about how a group of students would gather in one of these empty classrooms and manufacture their lies and flame their fanes of what was going on. When Stefan listened into a door classroom on the second floor, he could hear voices inside. With a smirk, he motioned for his fellow officers to draw their batons as he walked in first, casually opening the door to see 6 hooligans all gathered around a table, and their attention was turned to them and his gang immediately. One of them, a woman, spoke up. "Who are you?" she asked, already being worried. Stefan grinned. "Who do you think?" he counted. "We're the police, and we've been informed that you plot an anti-government conspiracy here." The mood of the room darkened up, and one of the older students spoke up suddenly. "Anti-government conspiracy? We're just a bunch of students talking that—" "Silence!" Stefan shouted, expression growing more stern. "I won't tolerate this foolishness. You're all coming with us down to the station where we can determine your loyalty." He slid his free hand down the front of the baton. "Or would you like me to show you what it means to enforce the law?" A painful... Who is messaging me right now? I can't read right now. I'm discording. A painful silence dominated the space between the two for a few seconds, before one of the students eventually conceded, stepping out and looking frightened. Okay, she began. I'll go. Guys? She asked, looking back to the others who were growing steadily more concerned. It's not like they're getting another choice. The woman who initially spoke up stood quietly, glaring daggers at Stefan, who only gave a cocky smile back. As her classmates bumped past her, she muttered something under her breath. "Fucking pig." So then those are pretty quick messages back to back. I'm a little concerned. Okay, what do we got here? Did that not do much? Let's buy some Burgundian slaves then. International competitor. An uneasy ally. Von Siemens is a scum, but he sees the writing on the walls and knows that his cartel days are numbered. He knows that our threats are neither empty nor idle. He is a rat escaping a sinking ship, clawing at the last thread of hope. He doesn't deserve our mercy, but if that's the price for his cooperation, then so be it. In return for amnesty, von Siemens will not oppose the reorganization of his eponymous corporation. He has promised to sit down, shut up, and hand over his slaves, illegal assets, and whatever else we demand, all in exchange for his wealth, his position, and his life. It sickens me to spare the snake, but it's easier than the whole process. But the easier this whole process is, the better. Anyone with common sense would do the same. Well, it's coming along. The Iberian economic crash. Oh, the poor bastards. Stop it, they're already dead. Got an uneasy ally. Eston's already kind of naturally falling apart. I might actually have to check Discord because I'm getting a lot of messages. Oh, it's just in my Discord, I was about to say. Oh man, one of my subs just got Hearts of Iron Force. He was telling me about Barbarossa. Oh, that's cute. Let's select a national focus. Zakuun's music. Sparing the Siemens, while a moral compromise, is a sensible thing to do. They will be dismantled, dismembered, broken on the altar of freedom, but not destroyed. They will endure, chained and bound, their leash gripped firmly in the hands of a state. Not until von Siemens and the other executives are long gone shall they be considered trustworthy. In the meantime, they shall continue their work under our auspicious and our auspices and on our terms. No longer will slaves toil away on assembly lines putting together Siemens-branded electronics while the company's directors grow fat off of profits. Their work will be done by free paid employees, and the taxes, just taxes paid. This mercy, extended only because we so wish it, is far more than Siemens deserves, and they had best remember that fact. So repatriation efforts will be somewhat increased, and I imagine we'll get more after, we'll be able to go more after Siemens in a bit. Galen was pinching his nose when Wessel came, and the agent could tell that he only pinched it harder when he had heard the sound of a certain someone entering the room. Eventually, Galen opened his eyes as Wessel quietly sat down and gave the man a cold, bitter stare. Hold on. There we go. One that Wessel did not reciprocate, but merely took in. Herr Wessel, he stated, voice strained as he felt the need to tighten his left hand against something that wasn't his desk. This operation has been a failure. Of all the things you could have picked, perhaps Galen was right in a way. Perhaps Wessel underestimated Antifa. But it didn't matter now. That he would be told soon enough. It's not even the fact that you failed the mission that is the worst part. It's the consequences. His expression didn't dare soften, but his voice strained less. With the reputation of the R&D driving downwards, I've also received reports about the core members of Antifa. They have radicalized. Now they have dug themselves deeper into their Bolshevik thought processes. And, Galen cut himself off, closing his eyes and rubbing his forehead. Absurd. Patently absurd. Opening his eyes again, he glared at Wessel once again. Herr Wessel, I will make this quick. Do not, he said, drawing and emphasizing the word not, make a grave error like this again. Understood? Wessel simply nodded. He knew what he had done. There was no protest to be made. Galen took another sigh. You are dismissed. I need to think over this new information. See what is to be done. In the meantime, avoid stepping on more landmines, please. Well. Ooh. The embassy has been successfully infiltrated. Estimated 28% of staff have been relocated back to Germany, replaced with our own R&D agents, regular contact with Japanese diplomats and other miscellaneous figures related to the Japanese nation. Suggested to wait until the situation has stabilized, and we have determined that there is no possible way for the Japanese to find out what we are listening to them. Bugging operations have begun. Expected translators to come in soon. Once we've figured out more, the recommended next step is to infiltrate the Japanese mainland. Risky operation, but the success of Singvogel will have given us access to several possible landing destinations in various Japanese points. More on pages 1 to page 11. See Appendix A about cursory information regarding Japanese economic status. Due to further research, end of page. May Germany be in safe hands. Old allies turn on each other. Well, we got some more PP. That's always nice. We have the advantage. We'll pay them some compensation too. God knows we can with our great fucking economy. And we'll invest into Ukraine while we're at it. We'll invest some more money. How is our liquid reserves? Oh, wonderful. Holy shit. Pay off more debt. We might have more GDP than national debt total. Wouldn't that be fucking great? Heck, in theory, we might not even have to subsidize the rest of it. Or, not subsidize it. What am I trying to think? Keep cutting our other stuff. We probably still will. But, we don't need to. Okay, Aslan Riga. We'll do a little bit of both. And downward bends we can also go after a bit. So let's do that. And I should cut this video. I'll finish up this event just because I wanna. It's going really good. And I'm having a lot of fun, and I know I have to do homework after this. My fear, I have some news to report. Something very... Oh, okay. I have to stop here, because this is a really good... This is a cliffhanger. I'll read this out, and then we'll do it. My fear, I have some news to report. Something very, interesting just happened within our borders. Albert Speer stood up to bring a chair forward and sat back down with his hands on the desk. What do you have for me? The Führer asks, a stern look adding to the shadowy voice. The officer took his seat and began to recall what he'd seen earlier. A few hours ago, the local radar station of Westphalia detected a foreign object in the skies. We attempted to establish communication with it, but once these efforts failed, our SAMs fired on the object. During the attack, we realized it was a foreign aircraft. The plane crashed about 20 miles northwest from Dortmund. Do you know where the plane came from? Albert Speer inquired, leaning back in his chair and interlocking his fingers. I don't know why I'm doing this along with the reading, because you guys can't see it. Here's why the situation is so good for us. The pilot survived the crash. And when we captured him, we found out he came from the United States. Apparently the Americans were testing out some kind of new spy plane, and they used our country as a test site. Unfortunately, the photos that were taken have already been sent back to the US, and the pilot is refusing to give up any information. We can certainly torture the pilot for information, but we need to be careful that the Americans still have photos. Nevertheless, we have an American hostage. If we play our cards right, we can get what we want. Now, how badly do they want him back? Oh boy. This is the start of a diplomatic crisis. A very, very fun thing that I am not going to get into now, because I know if I do, I'm staying up all night playing this game. And I cannot afford to do that, because I got a bunch of homework this weekend. And midterms to worry about. So, alas, I have to cut it here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching, however. If you like this video, go and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content, you should go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, leave them in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any all the feedback you folks might have for me. If you want to send feedback my way, I have a Patreon down below. You can check that out. I have some cool reward tiers. Not reward tiers anymore, but I have like a few newsletters that I send out occasionally. I might have something uploading depending on how copyright works. But so keep that in mind. That might be pretty neat. Semi-exclusive content, sorta. So yeah, if you're interested in any of that, Patreon down below. If you want to chat, play games, do anything of the sort, go ahead and check out my Discord down below. It's a blast and a half. It's been pretty active the past couple days, and I've had fun with it, and a lot of people are too. And if you want to watch me do this sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch channel down below. You can check all that out with the links that I provide in the description. And yeah, that's about it for now, folks. Thank you as always for watching. My name has been DB333. Fuck, we're picking a bad time to stop, at least this session, but I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.